Hello and welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast, the bi-weekly all-cure podcast, and we are back for a action-packed episode for you fine people out there. Tonight, covering all kinds of time zones, we have Donald and Chaz, and our good and reoccurring guest, John. Welcome back to the show, man.
Hello, good to be back.
Yeah, we got you with the full gang this time.
What's up, John?
Doing all right out there in the UK?
Yeah, all good in the UK.
Everybody's hanging in there.
What's going on with that Cummings guy?
Oh, fuck, yeah. So, for anyone who doesn't really get that, he's like the Prime Minister, so, like, you know, our president equivalent he's like top advisor or something like that. And during this whole lockdown, we've had a bizarre lockdown, to be honest, because it's been a lockdown in name only. There's been a lot of...
you have to come to our country,
really,
then.
Yeah, there was never... no one was really, like, obeying it, if you get me. Like, everyone was still going out and, you know, all the shops and stuff closed. But besides that, like, everyone just kind of treated this like this nice, big, long holiday. So the government were putting out all these like rules and regs going, you must stay at home, you can't travel there, you can't do that. And this Dominic Cummings is he's been caught out. He travelled all the way from London to I can't remember where he went now, but it was about 200 miles. So it was like from one end of the country to the other. The government's been caught with the pants down and
jeez.
Where it's like a lockdown for some, but a lockdown for not a lockdown for others. Like other privileged people get to do whatever they want.
I know, but that's kind of where it all comes into, innit? Because no one has been. The only people who've been obeying the lockdown are the people who want to obey the lockdown. So you run into that issue there where it just, it's not really so much a privilege. It's just that because the only thing they were going to do to you is fine you about £60, which would be about probably $80.
Yeah,
it's not much of a punishment, is it, for spreading a deadly disease across the
The ticket I just got for fishing without a license is $200.
I know, exactly. Yeah, you get people for not paying you their TV license, but that's another debate for another day.
So, it's a little sadly reassuring to know that other places in the world are also being as oblivious as us. So, well, you know what else works great is the justice system.
Oh, shit.
So, I guess a couple months back, John actually pitched this idea, and we thought it was great from the start there of what we would do. We've had quite a few episodes lately going through all the tributes to 17 Seconds and all the great triumphs of the Cure that we thought maybe the Holy Hour we're losing our edge a little. Maybe we should stick it back to them and kick the bee's nest a little bit. So John actually came up with this idea. Thank you. And
it's a good one, John.
We're gonna put the Cure on trial, and we're gonna look at their whole career. And basically, the premise we kind of bounced it back and forth would be that the four of us are gonna think of one thing in particular that we really want to take the Cure to court for and see if we can find them guilty. While the one person's pitching their case, the other three will either decide to defend them or agree that maybe they should be held accountable for these horrific deals that they've done. And what we'll do is, I guess it might be the closest we've come to a game show in the Holy Hour here, where we're going to basically we'll give each person a little bit of time. We won't set a timer or anything, but maybe just kind of state the case against the Cure, and then allow time to, we'll try not to interrupt and stuff, just so any thoughts can be put on the table, and we can see if they really are guilty of all these things, or maybe none of them. So maybe once we cool down a little bit, we'll all realize that they are the magical band that we have come to accept over the years. But, what do you think, guys? Does that sound about the right premise? Did I sum it up okay? And the rules for the game?
As long as you periodically go into like a old Southern lawyer, like I do declare the cure.
Oh yeah,
that's I want you dabbing your brow with a fucking handkerchief.
That's a given.
And you're like, I swear these boys have done nothing but just played music and entertain all of you. Like, who's guilty here? Like,
Totally.
Take a look in the mirror there.
That was going to happen anyway. And I go, well, now, I present to you these artifacts.
Indubitably.
And then, Donald, you have to do your best My Cousin Vinny impersonation.
I am.
Yeah, I was driving over here and then...
Oh, you're so smart.
And I think we have to take into consideration our international guest for this episode of maybe they do things completely different over there. And we got like Parliament or some shit.
How's that? Many chords, so I think it's all right. Wordy, herdy, dirty, like.
Your opening statement, sir.
So yeah, do they have juries of any sort? I feel like kind of an idiot. Do they?
Yeah, it's all the same. It's prosecution,
they
defense.
Throw you in like a dungeon
jury,
or something.
What?
How's that?
Could you just explain your whole criminal justice system to us right now?
Exactly. We're kind of stupid.
Same as yours, I think, except for no death penalty, no.
This is America.
Yeah.
Ours, but better.
We don't film. We don't film our trials. I think you guys do, don't you?
Probably
It depends on the state
and the celebrity that's being tried.
Each state is different.
It depends on how popular the person is.
What
the ratings will
be. Cosby
be.
trial here, and they weren't allowed in there at all. So.
Oh, because he's rich.
It's just a state. We don't allow cameras.
Cool. And I guess it should be noted that Chaz is a actual legal judge from.
I am okay. Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm a certified judge of elections.
Okay, so
but I'd like to add that I am now an ordained minister. So
if any of us should decide to get married to this,
I guess so.
You can, is that what you
divorces?
No, I'm working
out on
divorces. I'm sure I can get a free law degree from somewhere like Uganda or.
All right. Well, so maybe we won't give you the final say in everything, but I think you being a judge holds a lot more weight.
It does hold a lot of weight. Yeah, it really does.
Okay, so your vote's going to be extra. So after each of us pleads our case, we'll vote, like I said, and I think maybe it could be a hung jury if it comes out 2-2 or something.
Definitely hung.
So oh boy, walked into that one. All right. Well, should we get this thing rolling? Should we? How would we like to start? Who would like to go first in this?
John, I think has to go first.
Yeah, as our guest. Yes.
Right. Okay then. Well, I wasn't expecting to go first.
Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. Your Honorable Judge Chaz is here.
I do declare
this man has a right to sit here and talk shit about the kill.
All right. All right. The floor is yours, as they say. Probably never in a courtroom.
Okay.
Somewhere.
So my crime is the mainly the absence of the new album, but more so, not so much that they have to make a new album, but more the fact that they've kind of dicked us around for about 6 years with a promise of a new album, and it's kind of getting to the point where it's taking the piss. It's a bit of an English phrase, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're taking the piss to be quite blunt, because I'm going to go all the way back to 2014 for this one.
Okay.
I mean, I know technically we were kind of getting these 4-year gaps in between albums from Mood Swings onwards, but it's not like they had to release something in 2012, is it? But in 2014, they kind of became a little bit more active, and they announced 3 dates at the Hammersmith in London, which I went to one of them. And not long after them dates were announced, those news articles like the NME and Big Billboard started announcing that they were going to release 414 Scream, which obviously was the doomed second half to 413 Dream. which isn't necessarily a new album, but it's still a new record, a new release that isn't remixes or a live album. So we got that, and that just went cold. Never heard anything about that. So 2 years later, in 2016, we get the tour, obviously, the big world tour, which you'd expect with a big world tour out of nowhere. You're going to get a new album, aren't you? We didn't get a new album, so to say, but we got 2 new tracks, which, you would think if new music's coming out, there's a new album coming out. Later on, we kind of find out that Step Into the Light and It Can Never Be the Same were just stuff from 414 Scream, which never got released. But at the time, I think everyone thought it was new music, didn't they?
Yeah.
So then we have another little gap, and then in 2018, that's when the quote-unquote new album is officially announced to exist. It's out there, it's getting worked on, it's being created. And I remember Robert saying specifically that it was that year or never. So that never happened. And then last year in 2019, we had another kind of I'd call it a world tour, even though it was mainly the festival dates, but it was kind of weird, wasn't it? Because it was festival dates. They were making the festivals, if you get me. Like
they were headlining everyone.
Like one day dates with them and about 5 support acts, which we were getting constant updates about the album throughout the year with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and anytime anyone grabbed Robert aside, and we kind of kept getting the same kind of thing where it was it's nearly done, I just need to go in, finish it up, touch it up. And I believe we weren't promised, but we were kind of teased with the hopes of a single by Christmas, which once again went quiet, which brings us into 2020, now in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, which is just a perfect excuse for Robert to never release an album, and I'm sick of it. And I think to add on to that, it's not so much that a new album. It's the fact that they have been hyping this album up and saying this is Disintegration 2, this is our finest work. This is dark. You're not going to get fucking Freak Show on this one. Yeah. This is all gold, no mold. Which just makes the wait. It just makes the wait more painful, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my crime. Not so much the unrelease of the new album, but the 6-year tease and ride we've kind of been spun the last 6 years.
I think you nailed it with that too, because it's all like, of course, whatever at this point, nobody's really thinking, but the fact that they were dropping those nuggets pretty casually, especially around like that Rock Hall era and stuff, where they were like, it's so dark, it's gonna be awesome, it's gonna it's like, don't say that shit if it's not coming out like within a year at least. It's like, come on.
The 3 albums, I think that pushed me over my limit when they said, we're going to do 3 albums. Like, no, you're fucking not. Like,
it all went straight back to zero. Just don't fucking
lie. Like, you don't have to lie. It's okay. Just one album is fine.
It was like such classic Robert bullshit on that, where it was just like, what? Where did this come from?
This is the jury deliberation portion.
Yeah, I guess we're okay.
Is there a defense to it at all?
Well, that's it. If anyone wants to throw a defense, throw a defense, and then
all right, I got it.
Suppose we have our vote. Yeah,
go ahead.
Here's defense.
Yes.
Fuck, that's hard to defend. I think it's like we're doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's just like a little entitled and impatient, and everyone wants instant gratification. But very few good things in life come from that instant gratification. It's not long lasting.
Yeah.
Like if you just get whatever you want, whenever you want it, like it feels less important and it doesn't feel as good, and almost less important because you're not putting anything into it. Like, just the only thing you're putting into it is impatience.
Yeah.
And I always look at impatience is kind of a negative thing.
Yeah.
Like being impatient about things. That's when I get bratty. That's when I get shitty and I get like rude to people, and I don't like being rude to people. And I'm very rarely rude to people. That's when I feel like I'm being the worst version of myself, is when I'm impatient.
Yeah.
It's like one of those core fucking little simple things, like one of the 5 or 6 things that people need to exist in the world and be good.
Right.
Is regulating your impatience. So I don't want to hold them to that, because they're just a band doing whatever the fuck they want, and they should have that right to do whatever they want there, Your Honor.
No more defense, Your Honor. Yeah, it's a good point, I think, because it is like...
All right, John, go.
I have a defense.
Yeah,
that,
I think we could all just gotta throw our 2 cents in. What do you got, Chaz?
That they don't owe you a damn thing.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And, they can work on stuff they don't think it's good enough to release.
Yeah.
Which, we might not all understand, but they can do what they want. They've given us enough, and, you have plenty of back catalog stuff to go on, and appearances and concerts. Like, they could not be touring too,
Yeah,
but they're
it'd be fine
doing
if they just
it,
never
so.
put out anything. Nobody said they had to put out anything.
And they
But-
gave us the 2 songs while they were on tour.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, which is great to listen to, but like nobody really owns those copies. But you can find them on YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
But I would say that they don't have to do anything, and it's fine. They could tour off their past records.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think
they'd be happy with it.
a huge key in
Yeah.
it.
I'd be happy if they did that, but I think it's more the fact that we know an album's out there, we know it exists, we know it's been working on. Like, if they just kind of said we're retired from the albums now, which would probably, in all honesty, be the best decision, really, following kind of the downward spiral and the peaks, and but at the same time, it's like you're telling us something and then not delivering on it, and it's kind of like, yeah, they don't owe us it, but at the same time, it's like, it's waving that carrot.
Right.
It's a fucking
On the stick, isn't it? It is.
Like,
Yeah, it is. It's a cock tease. Yeah.
Like, I always feel like it's a disrespect to the I hate saying fans even.
To the cop.
Like, it's a disrespect to the fans to do that. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone, people that just
yeah.
like really respect their catalog and like them as artists. It's like, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Your Honor, but I feel like a huge percentage of the fans are just like, they don't even want to hear a new record, like, because they all fucking suck shit. Like one, it's like a thing I barely want to hear, and you're fucking teasing me with it. Like, fuck you. Like,
All right.
Are we going into Donald's?
Yeah, it might be into Donald's trial in a minute here, but I have one last thing that I don't even know if it sways my opinion or not of it. But
I'm not ready.
Yeah. 2 points though, like going back to what John said, I think a huge part of it wasn't so much that like there is a new album and then it's not coming out. It wasn't like the news was leaks, like they were just quietly making this album, and people were like, because I hate that about movies even now and stuff, when they're like, they get one nugget of somebody's in this movie,
right.
And it's like still 5 years till the damn movie comes out, or it's like, just don't even get me thinking about it till it's ready. But
it's like, stop fucking with my heartstrings, like playing with my heartstrings. Like,
that's the part where they are,
exactly.
it is their fault, because they were the ones telling the people these leaks. It wasn't like somebody spied on them in the studio and said, hey, yeah, this is the darkest, coolest shit they've ever made, and it's like, all right, do I believe it or not? But it's like they're deliberately saying that stuff in interviews and talking about this album, and it's like, and it's one thing if it's like 1, 2 years, 4 years we've come to accept, but like 12 years is like a interesting gap of time, because it's like, not only it goes both ways where it's like, yeah, it's just, it goes both ways as far as like, what the fuck does another year matter if we've waited 12 years for an album? That's the patient side of me. Is like, well, who cares? Let them just, at this point, let them fine tune it and make it be awesome. But then another part's like, well, it's kind of putting more pressure on the album with every year if you definitely are going to put it out. You know, it's all like, if you get
especially when you,
if you get like a
especially
mediocre
when you
album,
say it's done.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, what are you doing? Because you know they're just fine tuning it in the sense of
I
like,
just got to do this small thing to
yeah,
it.
just sitting on his
I
show.
know, that's what's fucking pissing me off. It's just like I'd prefer more honest. Like, well, I don't know if it's honesty. I think it's just Robert being Robert. But if you're just like, oh, we're working away on it, you know, we're only going to release something if it's good. We've learned a lesson from the past, but they're coming out and they're going, it could be the greatest album we've done.
All right,
I'm really proud of it, but I'll never let you listen to it.
Yeah, you're never gonna hear it. It's like, I guess we'll never know, will we? Well, on that note, should we wrap that up? Then should we vote? What do you think, guys?
Like, they have a right to tease us,
Yeah.
like, and I have the right to not. And I have the right to not fucking listen to it and not give a shit about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like fair.
So you saying not guilty, Donald?
Not guilty.
Okay.
I'm gonna go guilty, just not so much on the fact that we haven't got a new album, but as I say, my crime's the tease. My crime is the tease we've had. So I'm gonna give non-guilty on the demand of a new album, but I'm gonna go guilty on the tease.
Guilty of the tease.
I think I could see where this joy's swinging.
Yeah, what's that?
I put them on probation and a little. They have to clean up
community service.
Yeah, some community service.
What about you, Chaz?
12 month imprisonment in the studio.
Yeah, that might be a little harsh. How about you, Chaz?
I'm gonna go guilty.
Okay.
I agree. I think the crime is that you're promising and not delivering, and that you're hyping it up as like the best thing ever, and you're getting your fans excited, and you're going on tours
for nothing
and everything, and you're not giving us what we want.
Okay.
And that sounds entitled, but at the same time, don't promise it. You know.
That's what I'm saying.
The judge makes no exceptions. So are you saying guilty on both the tease and the fact that there's no new album?
I'm more guilty on the tease than the fact that there's no new album. If they didn't promise anything, if they didn't say anything, then I'd be fine with that. Like I would be like, okay, you know, I'll go see them play a 3-hour show, you know, which is bonkers. But I would say guilty of the tease.
I would like to see how Robert Smith would fit one of those ankle monitors, like when you're on probation, over his high tops.
His ankles all swollen and everything.
Yeah, special
it's
modified
cutting off my
one.
blood.
I think you just put it in the high top somehow. Or something.
He's just hiding candy bars in it.
Awesome. I guess I'll have to go with guilty of the tease for sure. I think they are guilty of that, but innocent of the album too. I feel like they've done enough in their career where they can take their time and not even put it out if they want. But yeah, it's the teasing. So I think across the board they're off. They're innocent of the actual album guilt, but. So, like, what is this, like a civil trial now? Like, where they're
3-1, yeah.
Yeah, so they so they
it's a moral trial.
Found guilty of cock teasing the feds.
And their penalty is a new album.
And their penalty is sentenced to make a new album within the next.
We have to.
How about this for a penalty?
Yeah, what do you think? Sentencing.
No live performances till new album.
Ooh.
Release date. So you don't have to like have the album out, but you need to have a release date. It's set in stone, and the vinyl factories are printing, and it's official.
Yeah,
that's my.
It's like
that's what I'd give them.
Their punishment. I like that. It's like you don't get to reap the benefits.
Yeah.
I say that Robert Smith's got to release everything he's got in recorded material.
Ooh, there you go. That's a nice.
So the 414 stuff, all the way back to whenever to now, and then we'll see if he was actually telling the truth.
Okay.
If that they actually have all that stuff.
My sentencing would be selfish, where I would just make them put out In Orange on Blu-ray or something, you know. So we'll keep it minimal. I'll go light on them. Just actually put out the shit that was already out, you know. So
I'll promise to be out, like repressed or whatever.
Well, thank you, John. That was awesome. Shall we move on to the second case of today? Okay.
Go.
Woo! Everything After Wish.
Okay, let me get this straight. You're putting The Cure on trial for every album or everything they've done after Wish, or every album?
Every album.
Okay, so we're sticking to
I feel
albums.
like they made some wise moves.
So 4 albums.
Not the tours, not the...
That's good.
Anything side released, like just the studio albums.
Not as people.
All the studio albums have just been kind of like...
Okay.
Been kind of trash, and I feel like they've been resting on their laurels, like where they in the past have done magnificent things and recorded like fucking fantastic records and beautiful music and like dope shows, but I don't know.
Everything after Wish.
Nothing just stands up after, and even Wish is a little.
I was just about to say, I'm just happy he at least included Wish, or I was really going to have to kill him. But we'll keep that positive momentum going. All right, so every album, so that includes Wild Mood Swings, Blood Flowers, Self-Titled, and 413, and the beloved 413 Dream. All 4 of those albums?
Beloved.
All of those records, like, there's like 1 or 2 good songs.
Yeah.
And, like, they don't, I mean... This is me. They just don't inspire shit in me. Like I feel nothing when I listen to them. Like I've gotten to the point where I don't hate the records.
Okay.
But I don't like them. Yeah. I feel like they're like how do you describe it? A mannequin dressed up like The Cure.
Ooh, man.
Like I feel they're empty. This sounds so bad.
You got some birds behind you.
But they're like,
birds sound
I'm
really
outside
nice,
in nature, but they're devoid of feelings.
Okay.
Like the records just don't evoke anything in me. Like, and I feel like they're dirty. Like they're playing these big festivals. They're putting out these like junky fucking records. And playing, like, reaping the benefits of that because they have, like, a huge fan base. They just get to, like, do whatever they want, and that's what they choose to do. And it's like, yo, like they could have gone so many different ways.
They could have.
Are we still talking about The Cure? I thought you were talking about Metallica then.
Yeah,
like, I never want to think about
everything after the Black Album.
I never want to think about The Cure in this way. Like okay. I'm shocked that I have to have this conversation. Like, I'm gonna guilt them. Like, I'm shocked that I have to say this.
I'm so disappointed in you. Wow.
Yeah, they're being bad kids, man. Like, but they have all these resources where they can really do whatever the fuck they want, and this is what they choose to do. And it's like, I want them to, like, be successful and, like, play shows and headline festivals, but it's like, at what cost? Garbage records. Your Honor, I want to bring up some plot holes in Disintegration.
Oh, no. That's a whole other case. Dismissed.
Record on the fucking planet. Oh, Fascination Street can eat my balls.
All right.
There's a bunch of... There's
contempt.
Like, Lullaby is
You're out of order.
Objection.
Yeah, Lullaby is fucking bullshit. I'm saying
it. Have him removed from the court. Have this gentleman removed.
Am I to get dragged out of court? Like bailiff?
Throw him in
this gentleman from the court? Yeah.
All right, let's stay focused here. You got a big chunk to work with as it is. You don't need to stretch it back. All right.
You guys got to get.
How about this? If you're fielding questions, Donald, do you do you think that you take the lack of impression from those later albums so hard because you love the other albums so much, or do you feel like if it had started where those were the only Cure albums, would you be kinder to them?
Yes, I would take into account the quality of their previous recordings, which are fucking gems.
Yeah.
A master craft, like a lesson of like, this is how you make fucking music, like to a T.
The argument you put there is quite hard to fight because it's like, I consider Wish a masterpiece, so it's like I can't say, oh well, fucking Mood Swings is great. I think it's good. If we just said that in an alternative timeline, The Cure stopped at Wish, like just completely stopped, the band split up and separated. We wouldn't have had Burn though. We wouldn't have had Burn. We wouldn't have had Underneath the Stars. That is a fucking jam. We wouldn't have had like. There's so many good songs from past Wish era, which are like I would even consider some of my favorite songs, but unfortunately, they just lack the ability to make a consistent album of start to finish like they used to. And I think this is probably coming from how I grew up with The Cure by just buying albums at random when I'd see them in the shop once their whole discography pretty much already existed. I'd just put them on my iPod, and if there was a song that was shit, I'd just skip it.
Yeah.
So, but I'd say Wild Mood Swings isn't that bad. It's not that bad. It's got, let's put it this way, it's a good album, but it has some of the worst Cure songs on it. Right. Like Club America came on the other day on Shuffle, and it's just like, what the fuck is this? Like it starts, that's like it's fucking Hendrix Tear Up, which you can get down to, and then such a beautiful person. It's like, what the fuck you doing, man? It's like I think we've all had some music experience in our lives, haven't we? And like we've all probably been in a studio at some point, and you know that like it's not just like the guys in the band there. Like someone must have heard that and went, "Fucking hell, that is horrendous."
That's like I'm saying, like that familial sense, like where someone's been like so consistent. And no, Chaz, this isn't personal experience, but just like someone was like, like a terrible father, like they were great or something, and then they like everything goes to shit.
Like, what am I they were a great father, and they had a stroke, and now they can't.
But it's they built a foundation. They built a solid foundation,
and then
did he turn into a robot for anybody else?
With garbage, like they
Donald blew a microchip.
It's like, are you bipolar? Like what? Like what's the fucking change? Like why the fucking
it's
change?
Not that
like you
different,
went from
man.
So
you listen
great.
to Want. It's like totally classic.
Donald, I'm learning so much from you, and so much about your life right now. It's amazing. Oh god, my side hurts.
Oh man.
Like,
can we just find him not guilty now and move on?
I'm looking forward to the eventuality of when it's either or. It's either I get all the original records or they re-release the reissues. But since getting into vinyl over the past years, it's encouraged me to listen to an album as intended. So I'm quite interested to actually put the needle down on Wild Mood Swings and there it starts finishing Blood Flowers as well. Because I mean, I'd say it's certainly in my kind of bottom tier of albums, but at the same time, I could not honestly sit in and tell you that I've listened to that start to finish ever in my life ever. I've never done that. Even on the trilogy, Blu-ray, like that's the point you shut it off. Then like I've had my experience, but like I can't really give a proper verdict on that album until I've done that. It may be a completely different experience. Like if you sit down and you accept that album for what it is and you listen to it start to finish and you don't have Disintegration in your mind and you don't have any of the other albums, I may come out the other end of it with a better kind of perspective. The same with the 2004 self-titled album. To be honest, I think them two Bloodflowers and Self-Titled are the worst. I think My Mood Swings is good, but it's the start of the decline. It's you got to the top of the hill, and it's the start of the decline. You still have some great Cure tracks on that, and I really love the kind of like unique vibe that Wild Mood Swings has. It does feel different, whereas Bloodflowers felt like let's have a mooch in the recycling bin and see what we can pull out of this. And
it was different.
Self-Titled was just a kind of a fucking mess, really. But 413 Dream was another Wild Mood Swings where they brought it up a bit, but they weren't, they just stumbled and fell. Yeah.
Dude, you're such a good lawyer, man. Like,
Don, let me ask you a question. Do you think the fact that you were getting... How old were you when Wish came out?
Fucking like 15, 16.
Okay, so the next album comes out in what, 96? So you're what, your 20s now?
It took forever.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that evolution from when you started listening to music up until your 20s completely changes.
Yeah.
And because I know how my musical taste started off, and then by the time I got to my early 20s, it completely changed to definitely like where I didn't want to listen to the music I used to love when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Soon it eventually came around again, but what I mean is like at the point of which Wish came out until Wild Mood Swings came out, a lot had changed musically for you. So you might have not have been receptive to that album and even future music.
I was too busy with my life changes, being a young man, that I didn't have the focus to pay attention to a fucking record. It makes sense.
No, I'm not saying that.
Everything else is so changing and chaotic.
It's just saying those 4 years in particular, everybody goes through so much changes. You went from freshman in high school to your first year out of high school. Everybody is like 180 completely by that. But, it makes total sense because you were just like, yay, first concert with Wish. And then by first year out of high school, you're like, fuck yeah.
Like nothing's going to have that impact ever again.
Right, you weren't sitting around listening to Wild Mood Swings.
I didn't stop having sex after the first time I had sex. I had more sex.
What?
You know what I mean? It's like the same argument, though. It's like, it's never going to be as good as it was because it was such a monumental
Part of my argument is that
this court's
I see people all the time say that. No, listen to me. Hold on. So I see online a lot. Some people say that Bloodflowers is their favorite album.
Yeah.
That Wild Mood Swing, not Wild Mood Swings, but a couple. The Self-Titled is their favorite album, and so on. A lot of that has to do with how old they are and when they got into the Cure.
Yeah.
So something like Bloodflowers holds a special spot in a lot of people's hearts, and I don't see it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a lot of that they haven't done anything good after Wish is really subjective and doesn't really.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Doesn't really. No, I mean I don't think it's a crime.
Yeah.
Just because it's your opinion. I think that our musical styles change, and when you get into the Cure, is totally different to what somebody else got into the Cure when they got older, or when they were younger. So you might have. Bloodflowers is your favorite album. So
how can I?
I don't understand.
How can I hold them? I think I see what you're saying. It's like, how can I hold them to such a standard, to such a subjective thing?
Yeah, it's not a knock. It's just that everyone does that. Yeah, it's just where you were in life, and you just lined up in a sense that you weren't there for Wild Mood Swings. It makes.
Ooh, I think you got me there, man. That might be some not guilty shit, but still.
It's like a John Grisham.
When John said that there wouldn't be Burn, and there wouldn't be, and you could make a list of songs, because as we've gone through the albums and we've broken them down, I've found songs that I didn't like before that I really like now, and I think that they put out if you took all the great songs, you could probably make a whole album, if not more, out of those good songs. Underneath the Stars is amazing, you know, and then a couple songs off of Wild Mood Swings. I'm sure there's a couple on Bloodflowers and maybe one or two on the self-titled. But I mean, overall, I think that they've done a good amount of good music since then. So
I would argue a fair amount. I would say a smattering. Yeah. But I'm going to call it a little not guilty on that.
Oh, you changing? You dropping the case?
No. Like I still fucking. I think I stand by what I say. But I'm absolutely.
But you're gonna vote against yourself?
Yeah, I'm voting against myself.
He dropped the charges.
Yeah, I think he dropped the charges.
This sounds like an abusive partnership between two people.
It is an abusive relationship. It's like, why aren't you meeting up to my standards? Yo,
your standards are too high.
Yeah,
I think let's all vote now, and I think I'm gonna vote not guilty.
I'm gonna vote not guilty.
Yeah, not guilty, but you know, I see why that crime came up.
But
it's debate, you know, it is unfortunately. I know. It, as Chaz said, it's subjective, but I mean, them albums are just not as good as. Wish.
Yeah, I would. I would definitely.
Backwards. They're just not, like, you know.
Yeah.
I think even the people who say it's their favorite albums will probably admit, because like my favorite album's Wish, but I'd probably say the best album is Disintegration, if you kind of get where I'm coming from there.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we can all agree that the sentencing should just be couples therapy for indefinite amount of time for Donald in post.
I think Donald just needs to go to therapy, period.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a whole other.
Kieran, I need to go to couples therapy.
Get the reissues out, and then maybe it could change some minds.
Yeah.
You ready, Chaz?
My crime is their merchandise from. Was it 1997 on?
Yeah, so similar to the timeline
Wild
of
Mood
Donald.
Swings.
But,
almost, yeah. So, I make T-shirts, and that's part of something that I love to do. And I would feel that if The Cure actually put out quality merchandise, I'm talking about like as quality as the shirts and as well as the artwork. And they also would put out older shirts and not license them to other companies like Hot Topic. Yeah. I don't think I would have any type of reason to do what I do.
Yeah.
So I take it personally when I see on their website shitty shirts that are up for like $30 a piece, $35 a piece, and you go and they license their name to that Noah company. And they put out these $300-$400 shirts just off the rack, and then you have these people selling vintage shirts for $200 to $500 a piece, when The Cure could just as easily just put them out themselves, which they already do because they license them through like Hot Topic. So they put out a Disintegration shirt and a Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me shirt, and so on. So I'm putting them on trial because I believe that somebody lost their way when it comes to putting out quality artwork with their albums and with their tour merchandise. So that is part of my argument, and I think part of it has to do with Pearl not being in the band at a certain point. And because I love the merchandise that they did with Wild Mood Swings. I like the shirts that I've seen for the tour and for the promos and the singles and everything. I thought they did a great job with the toy line that people find. I have
the Funko Pop shit.
No, it's not Funko Pop. It's like the old. What are they? Old Russian toys or old toys?
The album art.
Like the clown.
Yeah. I have two of them myself, and I think that was a great job on their part when it comes to that album. So Bloodflowers. I think we've through our going over the albums, Bloodflowers artwork is absolutely terrible. Yeah. It's blown out. It's just gross. And the merchandise kind of reflect it. So they started doing like V cut shirts during that point, which are terrible. I own one of them, and it's just I don't need my chest hair sticking out at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, then they started doing certain other things, expanding the merchandise past, you know, normal T-shirt or whatever you would buy at a show. And then they started doing bucket hats. So that's a whole thing that I think is bullshit. Yeah, overnight. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna focus on shirts.
Yeah, the bucket hats are a whole other thing. But.
Yeah. So then you go into after that was the 2004 self-titled, which is god awful. The artwork we've kind of given a pass on because a lot of it was kids' artwork.
Yeah.
But I think that you could call out.
Quirky.
Yeah, it's quirky. It's okay. The artwork for the tour shirts were terrible. They could have gone a different direction with it, and they didn't. I thought there was some artwork in the kids with the kids drawings that were pretty cool, but they didn't reflect it with the T-shirts. And then after that, 2008, I'm okay with. I didn't think it was great, but you had Pearl doing the artwork again, and I think it reflected a little bit better when it came to it. But it still didn't knock me out of the park. And then you had their the Reflections tour. That artwork was actually pretty rad, but I thought they could have done a lot more with the shirts. I own one of the shirts, and that's when I thought the quality of the shirts were going down. They were like these like athletic fit shirts that like once you wash them once, they lose their kind of feel to it, and I think they should have stuck with, like a Gildan, like if that's what you're gonna go with, just so it doesn't shrink. I've had too many Cure shirts recently that I've washed them once or twice, and I've put on a couple pounds and they don't work anymore. So I'm gonna blame it on them.
I think I've had the same problem there with some of mine,
yeah. But then you got the 2016 tour. I don't know if you guys bought the shirts, but I bought them, and I'm wearing mine right now. I don't think they're that great at all. I mean, I think if you're going to go on a world tour, they got to look better than that.
Yeah.
And then you go into a lot of the stuff that they did last year, and a lot of it wasn't great. I mean, it was like a lot of it was just boring. Like, I don't think the band at all takes a say in it. Maybe Robert does, but I think that he's definitely slipping on if he actually has control over it. So, but yeah.
Right.
So I think the last good thing that they put out was those shirts at the Sydney Opera House. That was just like a one-off. I really like the black one with the disintegration flower with Robert's face.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, but and then now they put out the Friday I'm in Love merch, and they put out the Three Imaginary Boys. Do you have a shirt?
I've got the Friday I'm in Love one, yeah.
How's the quality of the shirt?
The quality is fine, yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I say, they've just literally slapped the fucking artwork on it in a, like it doesn't kind of mold into the colours, if you know what I mean. It's just like, and you feel it, and you can kind of feel that kind of texture to it. So
okay,
it's like where the design on the shirt doesn't age with the shirt. It ages differently, and like I don't know, they look like shit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the artwork is lazy at this point, like what they're doing. And then when it came to the retro merch that they were trying to do, it just didn't I was just like, they could have done so much more with that. Like, it's kind of disappointing. Like, you're gonna honor an album or a single like they're doing, and it's like, you just slap the cover on it. Okay, great. And then
there you go.
Then and people will pay $25-$30 for it, if not more.
For a bunch of garbage. Like, who spends $30 on a fucking T-shirt?
John?
I guess you
do. Yeah, you
they're about,
man,
No, when they were on tour, I bought a lot of stuff, so I can't.
25 you get over there. So I think conversion, that is about $30. But for the shirt, that's not.
Seems like a lot.
You'd expect 25 at a show. because it's merch.
Yeah.
But I think usually in the UK, if you want like a decent shirt, you're looking at about £15 to £20. So I don't think they're that extortionary in price. Like, but I think I'm talking from some inexperience here, because obviously I wasn't around during the heyday of the artwork. But I've just never found the Cure to have the greatest merch appeal anyway. Like them early albums where they're kind of just blurry images, I just don't see them looking good on a shirt. The only ones I kind of think look kind of cool is, you know, the head on the door, Disintegration, and then maybe some more of the 413 Dream stuff. The stuff I've got myself is I've got a pornography shirt, which is just the album cover. Which looks quite cool actually, because it does work with the red and the black, because the background of the album cover is black. I got a Disintegration one, and I can't explain it, where it's like the fit is bizarre. So it's like it's wide, but it's not long.
Mine too. Yeah, but
so
like
it's like you're not covering your whole torso. It's like kind of like exposing a bit of gut, which is kind of puts me off wearing it.
Totally.
I think their photo shoots and everything are a bit weird. Like, I remember the pictures of them you kind of saw from like 2005 onwards, where they're kind of like the one I'm thinking of is, I think it was back when it was just the four of them. Earl was still in the band, and they're just kind of like sat. It's like the camera taken above them, and they're kind of like sat on. And it's like, you've got this reputation of being the fucking goth band.
Artsy
play that shit up. Like, I wear mostly band shirts, and like the bands I'm into, like Iron Maiden, they are fucking born for merch. They can just like, you know what I mean? They design their albums around a merch cycle.
The image.
Fucking Pink Floyd, you know what I mean? Such iconic images, and that's what I mean with the Cure. It's like, I just don't really think they've got that much of an iconic image besides Robert Smith.
And it's like they have this whole iconic image that they could utilize, and they don't.
I think a huge part of it was the band font of their name. I felt like it was so solid for so many years. They had like with the early one with the drop C thing, and then like through Wish even had the cool little slugs or whatever, and even Disintegration, such a great font, you know. And it's like from there, like Wild Mood Swings was all right, but then it just it starts to just not really be something like all of the albums pretty much. You could just put the band name in that font and it would be a fairly rad shirt, you know. It'd be super basic, but you know, at the same time you start getting towards like the self-titled one and stuff, it's just like I don't know, something's just kind of missing. And 413, like you said, comes back a little bit, but it somehow still didn't. I like the album artwork, but it didn't really translate for the shirts.
They really didn't, you know? I think going back to a point John made with T-shirts back before all of this, that when they made a shirt, it didn't necessarily have to be the album art plastered on the shirt, because like they didn't really do that back then. You know, I did the Picture Show shirt that was a bootleg of like an 81 shirt that they sold on tour that could have had Faith on the front of it, but it didn't. And, you know, the same thing with that 17-second shirt I did. Like, it wasn't the album artwork. Yeah, it had the blurry pictures on it, but that was pretty much it. Like, and then they would have the singles T-shirts that you don't really see anymore, you know, and so on. Like, they didn't necessarily take the artwork from the album and plaster it on a shirt. So, which I think is great. I love that. Like, I wish they would do more of it. And now it's just, here's the album cover of Three Imaginary Boys, you know, where they could have used the old ad artwork that they had back in the day, which is crazy, and made shirts out of that, you know, or something else, or had somebody have fan interpretations of it or something. I don't know. I think it's just lazy overall.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's more laziness than anything money driven, you know. It's just like they probably have a whole art department that he doesn't even talk to, you know. I mean, it's just like whatever. It's probably just so far removed from anything. And at the same point, he's like a fucking 60-year-old man. Like, he's going to sit around and worry about
making some
t-shirts. Yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't give a shit at this point.
You can just get people to do that, though, can't you? Really, like you can just hire it. But I mean, this may be a controversial statement, but I think there's a lot lacking from their kind of like looks and aesthetics, because when you go to the gig, it's just kind of them on stage with some flashy light. Like there's no tours seem to really fit into themes, or it's just like, and you know, the music does come first at the end of the day. But as I said, like I just kind of feel like maybe after Wish, they kind of just, well, you know, mild mood swings and that, yeah, but they just kind of like, I don't know, it's just like, here we are, this is us on stage. We kind of checked out on the on that level anyway, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the music's fucking, like the gigs are fucking amazing. Some of the best bands I've seen, but it's like, you know, you go see other bands and you see they make an effort. They want to theme the stage and have everyone positioned and make it look like that, and have all these like kind of gimmicks and make it like a show, like an experience. Whereas The Cure is, maybe they like that, maybe they like the more old school on the stage, just looking rocking it out. But you know, usually it's just some flashy lights in the background. The only time they really kind of go into something is when they play like Lullaby with the webbing on the screens, and then like Friday I'm in Love with the little swirling hearts and stuff. But other than that, like, you know, they just don't really seem to bother with image, do they? If you get me.
I'm sure a lot of that's just being older. You kind of disconnect from anything of being, you know, he knows that nobody's like wants to see his face plastered all over a t-shirt or anything at this point, you know. And it's like any band usually over like 40 is pretty much like, all right, I'm just gonna kind of eliminate the visual side of all of this and just make the music. I could kind of see that, but well, should we vote on these shirts then? Their merch in general? What are you guys thinking? It's not sounding good for them.
I'm going to have to go guilty.
You're going guilty? All right, what do you think, John?
Straight guilty.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to hang in there, but I think I have to go guilty on this one, too.
and you know I'm guilty, so...
Yeah, so all right. Wow, first straight guilty for The Cure on bad merch, or just not as good, lack of quality merch. I think that's probably what we're sentencing should be reissue all the old cool shit is my
and I'm in charge of their artwork
give Chaz a full-time job
and I
benefits and gets into every show free.
One last little tangent before we move on. One last little tangent. When I saw them in Glasgow, they had a special shirt for that gig, which was it was 27 years since they played, I think, Scotland or Glasgow or Scotland. So the gimmick was it was that pink, it was that pink Cure with the C down font, on the front, and then on the back it just had 27. And it's no one in the street is going to know what the fuck that means. It's like, no, who thought that up? Just let's put 27. It's not 27 years. Glasgow, it didn't even have the tour dates on the back. It just had
weird. It looks like a baseball jersey.
That's what I mean. It was fucking bizarre. And they also a special edition poster. So I remember going, let's have a look at this poster, and it was just like. I think they were trying to sell it for like £15. It'd be like $20, and it was just a flyer of like the most blandest. And it's like, I don't understand, because like merch is such like these days in this kind of like climate for bands, like merch is like the number one thing. That's why when I formed this band, it's like give yourself a cool title that you can work stuff around, and you know you can kind of create an image for. Whereas they can do that because they are known as the iconic gothic 80s band. There's a lot you could reach towards and pull from, but
it's easy.
You just don't seem to do it.
It's all there for you. Like, you know, it's like I think back to like that that iconic like Boys Don't Cry poster where it's like just a silhouette kind of like it's so easy. And it looks so fucking good, and it just hits, like, and it's so simple, and it's like, could have been doing that.
Yeah, even just variations of that constantly would be cooler than most of the shit coming out, you know, even if everyone's got that shirt 5 times, you know, it'd be like, all right, well, at least this is a thing, you know.
Or use one of the other pictures from that outtake.
Yeah, exactly.
Know?
Yeah, how cool would that be? Like the Slate
there's some
Turn
great
one.
pictures in there,
yeah.
Yeah. Big ass hair, big old high tops.
So, shall we bring up the final case here?
Yeah, what's yours, dude?
All right, my last one. It's a bit trivial, but I can't resist. I got to go on the record of just saying, even all these things, even the ones I have found them guilty of amongst ourselves, I feel very proud that the band I love so dearly has really not offended me that much over 40 years, where if you think of other bands that have been around this long, of how many things we could put them on trial for, it's worth noting that we're doing pretty good, I think, and all things considered. But there is one moment in history.
So fucking pragmatic, dude. God damn it.
One moment in history that has never set well.
Even-keeled motherfucker. God damn you. You're already right. Like, I already know you're right. You don't have to say anything. Go on.
Well, this one I think people won't agree with entirely, but there's a moment happened in history. Let's see. It happened at MTV Studios, Times Square, New York City, December 9th, 2006. There was a crowd of approximately 50 people, so there were witnesses. And then it actually got broadcast all over the world. So March 2nd. And then a fucking album of it came out, apparently, that involved this too. But the one thing...
I own it.
You're part of the problem there, John.
We'll get into this.
The part I've never liked, that ill-fated night that the Cure decided to not only just be around Korn while they recorded their Unplugged episode, but to actually partake in their performance and not even just cover one of their songs or like play one of their songs. They did a mashup of one of their songs with In Between Days, Make Me Bad / In Between Days. For whatever the fuck reason, I feel like this is the Cure's one of very few trips on their perfect lineup. But anyway, I hate the idea of a mashup no matter what. My first part, I was like, what the fuck is this mashup? Like, just cover one of their songs or just have them play along to a Korn song.
Shit,
like,
or get off the pot.
Yeah, even if fucking Care was like hanging out with New Order and they decided to mash up In Between Days and whatever the fuck, I would be like, this is a dumb idea. Don't do it.
They could have gone with like Kid Rock or something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's the same exactly. Shit. It's like, I felt like the songs really don't have anything in common. It's like it did not mesh well.
Bob Smith.
Yeah,
Band with the ball,
they loop back around. It doesn't work. Apparently, the chick from Evanescence, Amy Lee, was also on that Unplugged, and she just sang along to one of their songs. So I don't know why he couldn't just do that. He wouldn't have had to involve the whole band. So that was the first negative for me.
Involve others in it?
Because the other trip is that the fact that the whole band was involved, we can't even blame this just on a weird
drag other
Robert
people
Smith.
into this?
Yeah, he brought the whole fucking Cure in there. It was like Pearl's playing along guitar and keys.
Wasn't Simon in the background like you couldn't see him?
Yeah, he's tucked back there. I don't know if that was his choice or not. He was like, he kind of did that on their own Unplugged too. So I don't know.
Back there ashamed.
Yeah, Jason's playing bongo drums, which I know Donald loves. So. But I think that was mostly because Pigman apparently had the real drums covered. So if you're playing drums along with Pigman, all you have to do is play some...
Can I explain the Animals?
Okay, yeah, maybe it's a good time.
Please.
So that was during the 7th album, See You on the Other Side.
Okay.
The album cover to that was like this very kind of Alice in Wonderland-y kind of backdrop where it's a boy on the front cover, and in the background there's people in suits with animal heads on. Okay. So during that touring kind of promotion period, they had their session music, because they dropped down to a 3-piece at that point. So their session musicians had that was their session musicians basically would wear the animal masks. So there was that wasn't just some weird fucking.
Yeah, I figured there's
Korn?
something. I don't.
Yeah, that's
like Korn
yeah.
wearing the masks.
No,
it was actually
it
Lowell
was
wearing the mask.
Yeah,
just
it was their session
guys.
musicians. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is even.
There was only 3.
I don't know if
that's
weirder or not.
Band,
like if you're not
time,
even
like,
officially in the band, but you're wearing a pig mask while playing, I'd be like,
I'm not going to do that there. I'm not going to do that there, bud.
From my perspective, maybe they wanted to wear a mask. I don't know. I was all like, was Roger there? And I was like, no, he wasn't there. So...
He's like, I'm a proper piggy boy.
Yeah, they had the Rabbit as like a backing vocalist, and he was particularly bad.
Okay.
He was one of the worst of the Animal crew because he really fucking. It really sounded bad when he'd do his like high shriek vocals. Like it wasn't a great time period for them. Like let's just put it that way.
That's dope.
Interesting. Yeah. So they had the whole crew there. Roger, luckily not there, I guess, because there was a horseman playing piano, so he got that covered too. And
where's the crime, Gavin?
The crime? I'm getting to it. This is still more evidence than you had, Donald.
I see nothing wrong with this. What are we doing with this?
I will agree that 90% of this is my hatred of Korn, and not even so much Korn, it's just Ross Robinson in general. But I'm
just playing music?
I tried to get into Korn so hard for this, but it's just something about the vocals,
do whatever they want.
Do you think Ross Robinson was there?
Right.
Who knows? But
I was born for this. I was born for this defense. So when you're ready,
I'll give you the green light. I'll wrap up in a sec here. But it bothered me that this was like 2006. So self-titled album was like 2004, right? So like this is a good chunk of time. Like they've already like lost Perry and Rogers. I mean, it's like. They should have been well done with the whole Ross Robinson bullshit at this point. That bridge should have been burnt and moved on. So I don't know why this was still happening.
Like better than this.
And I guess they
didn't have to do this.
Exactly. Well, that's the part that really hurt. I was like, whatever. Like on some level of justifying it to myself, I'm like, well, he must have just owed him a favor. Maybe the dude from Korn's just like really fucking nice, and like we all had that band that's like they're not that great, but they're really nice. So you still hang out with them and play shows with them or whatever. Totally. But like, but then it's like. The thing is, right after the clip, when you watch it, I think it probably aired that way, where there's like little behind the scenes clips, and they're talking to Robert, and he's like sitting there, and he's like so genuine. He's like, I usually blow things like this off, but when the opportunity came up, there's just some shit you can't turn down. I'm like, what? I've never felt a disconnect with this man in like the whole.
Is this a fucking threesome or what? Like,
it's just like, what? No, you could have very easily turned this down. But so yeah, that bothered me, and I think the actual crime here, and I'll wrap up my spiel with that, is that. I felt like it was a slightly insincere grab at a younger audience, as much as it pains for me to even say that. And the way that even with the South Park episode we just did was very sincere, and I felt that was just like two cool people that crossed paths, and it just happened to click that they were hipper and younger. But I felt like this was just like because of that Ross Robinson connection. I'm sure he's got to be a Korn fan on some level or something, but at the same time it was like, I don't know. I just didn't see the connect there, and to me, it just felt like a little too much of a grab for younger fans, But it worked for John, though. So I guess I gotta say he brought you in, right? If I remember correctly, is this
right? Well, I'm gonna do some emotional manipulating.
Okay, I think I'll wrap on that note.
Let's
I've been the only one doing it so far, so it'd be good for someone else.
Right,
John. Before you start, I have a question. I have a question. Real quick.
Okay, so this took place in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Was The Cure on tour at that point? Like, why were they in New York City?
Right, I don't know the full reason for that, but what originally happened was obviously the Korn were brought on to do the MTV Unplugged album.
Yeah.
And with them MTV Unplugged, you usually get 2 guests, don't you? I think is the norm. A lot of bands have brought on like guests, haven't they, and stuff.
Yeah.
So they had Amy Lee, which obviously is a good fit because obviously were both kind of in that new wave of kind of new metal, new rock that was coming at the time.
Right.
And originally, the guest band was going to be Metallica.
Ah.
And they were going to do
Metallica.
Yeah, they were going to do "Make Me Bad," "Master of Puppets," and I think Metallica dropped out later in the game. I think the lead singer is like a huge kind of new wave, new romantic fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's created in the past. His influences are kind of like Duran Duran, The Cure, various bands from that time period. So I think it was the singer who obviously must have, and obviously through Ross, although Ross Robinson has only worked on 3 Korn albums out of 13.
Yeah, okay.
To be fair.
13
He's not like glued in with the band, like, you know, he's not been there the whole way. It's not like a Rick Rubin Chili Peppers situation. Like, he did the 2 albums in 94, 96, and then came back for 2010 to kind of recapture the fucking lightning in a bottle that blew up in their face. But, so I'm guessing he probably got Robert's number from there, but I think going back to the insincerity, there may have been a bit there because, you know, let's hop into the time machine and we're going back to 2007. I am 16 years old, in love with my girlfriend at the time. But you know, I'm an angsty little kid. I'm fucking alternative, and my music taste is Korn, System of a Down, Disturbed, Iron Maiden. Nice. So I walk into my music shop and I'm flicking through the CDs and I see this new Korn album and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know this was out. I pick it up, it's Korn Unplugged, and I'm like, I've always been a big fan of these kind of like heavy rock going acoustic. I've always kind of liked them, you know, them kind of like mashups of songs. So obviously I picked that album up and I took it home. You know, you look on the back and you see The Cure, and it's one of them. It's like, I'm sure I've heard that name before. I'm sure I know that band. I put it on and I listen to it, and then when it gets to The Cure, like that in between days part comes on, and like that just fucking hit me. That like you know that was like a musical awakening. So like, wow, this fucking shit sounds ace. I need to get onto this. So
dude,
that spiraled my path and got me onto, you know, the fucking Cure fandom, really. So obviously there is an emotional attachment to this.
This is a good
and
argument.
On that level, I apologize.
This is a good argument, Gavin. I think
Gavin, you want to shit all over in his childhood while we're at it now?
I'm gonna defend Korn. I'm gonna fucking the first album. The first Korn album is fucking raw, heavy.
Okay.
It's fucking awesome, and even the fans will say that was their best. They peaked the start because that was just 5 fucking angry lads just looking flashing it out, you know. And it gets deep and it gets dark, and in a way like that is like The Cure from certain points in their career of like Pornography and Faith in 17 Seconds. Like it brings back them vibes of just them emotions, and then they
fucking angry.
I see. Like, I don't take offense to anyone saying that they don't like Korn, because as I've got older, like I do
Korn
find
sucks.
it hard to. I find them hard to stomach. I do, but like to compare them to Kid Rock is a climb. Like, you know,
I'll give you that.
They jumped. Yeah, they jumped ship onto that kind of rap rock gimmick around the second album when it was really popping off. You know, like fucking Limp Bizkit and all shit like that, and like even Linkin Park, which are kind of a more higher respected band of that kind of era.
Dude, you're not the first. You're not the first person I've heard defend like the first couple Korn records.
I'd say the first 5 are all good albums. The first 5 albums, and then around the period of that MTV Unplugged is when they were kind of they lost 2 members at that point. They were starting to kind of nosedive into weird territory, and the album they did after that Unplugged album was very strange, but at the same time, like, I had to give them credit because they, unlike Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit, they were actually trying to come out of their comfort zones and create something that would actually be kind of critically accepted by, more higher people of more acquired taste in music, if you get me on that point. So I'll give Korn a bit there. They're not as fucking bad as you think. And like I tell you now that you could never get a Slipknot unplugged because their music isn't. They can't do that. Where's the Korn one? Some tracks work, some tracks don't. And Making Me Bad kind of doesn't, but not so much the way they played it, the way Jonathan Davis, the singer, sings it with the growls. Like there was no need in an acoustic environment and an MTV. The growling part, like the only one big for the games, like that wrecks it and tears away from it. And I agree with what you said. With they should have just done In Between Days. That would have been better because when he's kind of singing in his kind of softer vocal style. Yeah. He's not a bad vocalist, and it's a good contrast with Roberts. But it's because they tried, they were trying to work on a previous idea they had, obviously, with Metallica, which probably would work a bit better doing the Master of Puppets.
Yeah. And sitting in the jury, I would like to say, I feel like you made your fucking case, and Gav, not guilty, bro.
Well, I don't know.
Fuck yeah.
I think I agree with my biggest fault is...
Can I throw a question out to each one of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you, besides the Korn part, what do you actually think of that version of In Between Days? Because I think that is the best, one of the best versions of In Between Days. It's a complete flip on the head from the kind of upbeat, jolly, dancey track, and they turn it into a real moody, fucking pornography 17 seconds style track.
Yeah.
What do you think of the In Between Days without the Korn sections beginning and end?
I'm gonna step up and be completely illogical and say I don't like it at all. Like just my first get go, like my first thought. Like
even with that piano.
I do appreciate it a bit, but I don't know, it just doesn't do anything. It's cool, it's kind of interesting, and I take it for that. I appreciate it, because it is people doing something different, which I always appreciate. I like that it's fun. It's fucking different, because everything's the fucking same nowadays. I like some randomness in life, and that piques my interest.
What about you, Chaz?
It's really hard to separate The Cure and Korn.
Yeah,
for me at that point.
Get past it.
Yeah.
Fucking typical sheeple, Chaz.
Yeah, I am. I was just trying to say what Gavin was gonna say, but I just listened to him. I get what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. But it's just really hard to separate the spectacle that it was and what it sounded like. And I see people post this video a lot on when it comes to Facebook fan pages and everything, and each time I'm like, oh, it just, I respect Korn for what they do, and they're one of those original bands that for that sound. And
that new metal band.
Yeah.
They were the best out of the lot, I'd say.
Yeah.
The best. Well, actually, I think System of a Down, their last two albums were really kind of high quality. And I think the Deftones have kind of... There has been the bands that have kind of broke out. Yeah. Smashed the glass roof out of that genre, like Linkin Park and, the Deftones and stuff. But I think the Korn are in that high tier.
I mean, going back to the question of a mellow version of In Between Days, I don't think it's better that way, but I think it sounded cool when they were playing In Between Days. I was down with it. Because the other part of the song I wasn't into, but and then just the idea of mashing it up,
y'all are playing a cool song. Be happy for that.
I think In Between Days is so good you could do it anyway and not totally fuck it up, But it's
they could take the abuse. It's such a good song.
But like I said, 90% of it's just my not preference wise. But I do worry that it was just kind of a blatant grab grab, and not even conscious. I don't think, Robert Smith would be totally offended if he heard me say that, even of just like trying to grab a younger audience.
Yeah, I think that was the last album Korn had brought out since that Unplugged was, I think, their highest selling album.
Okay.
So there's probably a bit of truth behind that. Whereas they fucking nosedived after that. Like that was their, like, we went on about the kind of Cure's kind of downward spiral, but it was a fucking straight nosedive. Like their next album after that was their lowest selling album. So to go from that height, to go from that to that fucking low.
Yeah.
So, if you said if they came and did that in like 2009, it would have been a completely different story. It wouldn't have been like that grab.
Yeah.
But they really were at the peak of their popularity back in like 05, 07.
Yeah.
Well, before
maybe
Final
that's when the
Verdict,
Cure should have been like, all right, guys,
let's go on tour together.
Well, yeah, that was the kind of thing, right?
And it's like, why did the Cure gleam onto like bands like that?
Yeah. Well,
like I feel like there's no like there's some relation, but it's like, I don't know. I always imagine
like David Bowie in the 90s completely jumping on like Nine Inch Nails and the all industrial thing. I think like as a musician, it must excite them because like, I mean, I haven't really heard much of them, but like nothing like the Twilight Sad don't do much for me, and it's kind of like bring on people that are going to be, comfortable in your own kind of bubbles and stuff. But like David Bowie was a lot like that. He always loved jumping on kind of the new stuff. Like, he worked with Placebo, which the Cure did as well. And yeah.
Well, that's what I'd like to see. Like, I would totally negate all this if like there were just, I mean, you never really see pictures of Robert just hanging out or going to shows with people or anything, but even like, just some other crossover with these guys from Korn again, it just seemed kind of like, oh, that didn't work. So now you never hear anything about their relationship, like, it's like, are they buds or what? I mean, it's a little not fair because Robert,
telling it. I know the singer said on multiple times that he's really inspired by the Cure and he's a big fan of them. So I reckon after Metallica dropped out, he probably just the first band that came to his head. That's us these.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm fucking.
And the other members probably weren't that bothered, like, but
right.
Cool. Like, I'm fucking swayed on this whole like Gav like calling you like saying guilty, not guilty. This little chat here, I'm like not guilty.
Okay. Going not guilty.
But like initially, I'm like, fuck yeah, guilty.
Right. So it can't be guilty because I don't like.
I was swaying a little bit, man. Like your argument was good, John. Goddamn.
Yeah.
I was born for this. It's all been leading up to this.
As much as it pains me to have conflict with our guests, I'm so glad it was you that you were here to defend them. So
I'm gonna say not guilty, man. I'm saying it. I'm calling it.
And John, not guilty. I'm assuming.
Yeah, not guilty.
Okay.
I think there's some truth behind what you're saying. I think Robert probably did kind of jump on it as a bit of this will be a bit of a cool, quirky gimmick to jump on. I can't imagine any of the other band members to be particularly asked about it. I can't imagine many of the other members of Korn to be asked about it. But it's one of them things. Like I'd have fucking done it. Like if I was like if I was in like a fucking legacy band going on like 30 years and some up and comers wanted me to collab, I'd be like, I'd take it. I'd jump on it.
Oh, I'd be so full of cocaine and fucking around and do whatever the fuck I want. Like it would be great.
You were gonna do that anyway, Donald. What are you talking?
But you're like, fuck yeah, just like do it. Like fuck yeah, like absolutely. It's like, hey, you want to play these assholes and do whatever? It's like, whatever.
I think if this would have happened a couple years before, in like the mid '90s, like not that Korn was around or anything, but I just think that like.
They've been going since the early '90s. Like,
okay, so like I'm talking about '93 when the Judgment Night soundtrack came out. So I think
love that soundtrack.
Oh, so good. But I think if they had something like that it would have gone over a little bit better. And then also if you go years in the future, like how we have now, how people do mashups all the time and how it's like a trendy kind of thing now. So like they'll put like Shakira with a Danzig song.
Right.
It's just like that kind of stuff is like kind of genius and funny because like you take off part of a song and you recognize that the song is pretty much the same as this one and you put them together. So it just fell in like a weird time where it didn't come off very well. I would vote guilty. So.
It's tricky, man, but
so guilty. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's clear where my vote goes. So this makes this officially a hung jury on this one. 2 non-guilties, 1 guilty. Split even.
Not like that.
But I do have to say, for The Cure, reaching for that younger audience, and it did grab John. And I have to say, though, I think John's cool enough where he would have discovered The Cure anyway, whether this existed or not. So I can't.
Yeah, I think you're right there because like my uncle was a huge Cure fan, and you know, I think I would have. I had, you know, when I looked them up, I was like, oh yeah, I have heard these before, but I don't know to that extent because it just gave me this like I have to fucking. I just stopped what I was doing. I was like, I need to check these fuckers out. You know what I mean?
Well, that's cool.
I think it's been proved that Robert clearly does have a thing for that kind of music because obviously he chose to work with Ross Robinson, and that was before the collab. So I think he has. I don't think you could really say it was just he was grabbing it for. Maybe he was after that reach. Maybe he kind of thought, you know, the band's kind of getting late into their career now, and they want a new boost and a new kind of. Kind of reach that hot topic, Nightmare Before fucking Christmas or
exactly. It's like a demographic.
I'm saying not guilty, but I'd settle on a Corn Cure restraining order.
Okay,
just don't see each other again. It doesn't need. It happened. It was fun. It was a quirk. It was. It was a once in a lifetime event. Just leave it there.
There has to be like a social worker there when you guys meet together. And like...
I'll be
no, don't meet. It just don't meet.
Just don't do it again.
Stay away.
Well, I guess we should wrap up. We're about at that point, the end of our cases. So the final review stands as we have 1 hung jury for the Korn experience. So that was just going to get all cases, all counts dropped on that one, I guess. Merch all across the board is guilty. Everybody was in agreement there. So The Cure is going to be reissuing tons of old classics. As far as every album since Wish, not guilty across the board, but we did have some sympathy for where you're coming from, that maybe they've lost a step.
Fucking fair enough, though.
But technically not guilty. And for the new album, we found them guilty on teasing us about the album, and mentioning it too much, and not guilty for not having an album. So we gave them lots of community service. Robert's gonna be. Oh yeah, and we said they'd have to re-release all their other stuff. So, or
ankle
not re-release, but actually
and
release.
High tops.
Yes, and an ankle bracelet in his high tops. So I think we did all right. So yeah, I guess only really guilty of teasing and bad merch. So,
what a crime!
So that's not too bad for 40 years of a career, I guess.
What a fucking crime! Putting shit out there and people are like, I don't like it. I'm bored.
Yeah,
it's like
shouldn't tease about it, and you shouldn't make bad T-shirts. So a lesson to every up and coming band out there. If you want to,
makes me rethink a lot about it.
Well, on that note, I gotta say thank you so much, John, for making this work with the time differences and willingness and the great idea for an episode.
Great, thank you, John.
Thank you for putting up with us. It's such a pleasure having you here. And I hope you guys keep well over there. And of course, thanks Don Chaz as well. Hope you guys have a good rest of the night.
A mournful howl. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Mournful howl? Like you're going off to jail howl? And,
it's been an emotional one, this one, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's very emotional.
A little bit.
Hopefully,
usually when I listen to these group ones, it's usually just you having a laugh, aren't you? And I think I've brought some. I think it has been like an episode of fucking Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah, this is intense.
Yelled at each other for like 2 hours. Love it.
I guess we'll have to put a disclaimer in that none of these cases are actual.
None
of these opinions mean anything, or cases are actually hold up in court. It's like the people's court, It's like these aren't actual trials.
Totally.
None of this actually matters. So, dun, dun, dun. Judge
All right,
Wapner.
boys.
All right, you guys take care, and thanks so much. We'll be in touch, and we'll just go ahead and say talk hard from over here, and catch you soon. All right, again, a very special thanks to John for not only coming up with the idea for this wacky episode, but also being such a good sport and participating with us and hashing it all out with us. We really enjoyed having you and always look forward to having you on the show, John. And, hopefully it goes out saying we recorded this prior to all the latest catastrophes going on in our country and around the world and all actual real injustices. So while we're goofing on these trials of the cure, very serious real injustice here, and I hope everybody's being safe out there, and hopefully this is all making a difference. Unfortunately it comes to this, but hopefully you guys are doing okay, and we're just trying to do our part here at the Holy Hour of having some goofy stuff to take your mind off all the madness that 2020 seems to be. So if nothing else, we're halfway through this year. June is now upon us, so take that little glimmer of hope maybe, but hope everyone's still doing good by the time this posts, and things have started to balance out again in every direction on every catastrophe. But yeah, sorry about the audio on this one too. It was really tough. We tried to record it through Zoom with John over in the UK, and got little pops in, unfortunately. So I apologize to John and to you guys listening. I hope it wasn't too painful to get through, but I really did my best of piecing together the different pieces of audio I had, whether it be the mic recording all of us or our individual mics. So it did bounce around a lot, and I tried to do my best with it, but I do apologize for that, and we'll hopefully have a nice, smoother copy coming towards your way for the next episode. But long distance, it can be tough. So thanks, and sorry to John, and sorry to you guys, but thanks for bearing with us. All right, so be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever the hell it's called now, so you don't miss any episodes, as well as over at the YouTube page. If you don't feel like waiting for those old episodes to sprinkle back in like I'm doing, they're all there. They're waiting still. Those episode 1 to wherever the hell we're up to now, 137 or so, and you can go check them out there, or patiently wait to see how they pop back into the feed. So just as a heads up there, but subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Instagram, that's where you're gonna find us. Sure thing. Holy Hour Podcast on Instagram. Be sure to follow Chaz too. 17_seconds is where you'll get the scoop on his shirts and everything else. He's currently probably wrapping up at this point, going through his vinyl collection, but you never really know. So go back and check all those out. He's posting all those. And follow Donald too. Farty on there. It's a 4Arty, I guess is how it's written out on Instagram. And be sure to follow John's band, Saturn Split. And they got 2 songs, 2 new singles that have been out, and you can find those on Spotify and all over the internet wherever you stream, and hopefully we'll get those guys back in action soon, playing some actual live shows. So find those on Instagram. You can track most of that down. Our Facebook page is a great place to get additional content, and maybe suggest something you would put the cure on trial for, or start your own debate over there. That would be great. Or just drop me a line, gavinconnor@gmail.com, if you want to talk to me about all this or something totally different. And always love to hear from you guys. And we got a great episode up around the bend. We're going to talk about some music we've been listening to through this past miserable 3 months, and might not be as cure heavy, but you're gonna get some good music suggestions, I can guarantee that. So stay tuned, and be safe out there, please, and take care of each other, and hopefully we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
All I do is fix you needed to, just to get some sort of attention. What does it mean to you? Does it mean to you? For me, it's something I just do. I want something. I need to feel the sick.